So yesterday I read the question by one of our Dharma friends who wanted to know about how to talk to atheists about Buddhism. And so another Dharma friend wrote some reflections on that. And he lives in Ireland and has small children who are going to a Catholic school. So I thought it would be interesting to hear what he had to say about this. So first he said he enjoyed listening to the talk. And he said, I have the same issues myself these days now that my children are at school going age and attending the local Catholic school. I really enjoy engaging the kids in these discussions, and I think it's very positive for kids to question things. Recently, they were asking me about Noah's Ark and the flood. At the end of their story about the ark, I said to them, well, do you know that never actually happened? Don't you? You know that, don't you? The flood, I mean. And to put a context on this, I didn't want them believing in a punishing God who drowns the people that he's made in his own image for displaying faults that he himself must have put into their characters. Yeah. I didn't go into that level of detail with the kids, but I told them that it was a myth, a story to remind people to be good instead of bad. They were quite shocked to think that something that their teacher may have told them might be a lie. At their age, they still have quite concrete ideas about truth and lies. In other words, if what their teacher told them wasn't true, then therefore they must be lying. So it caused them a little bit of confusion and uncertainty. I'm not quite sure that they believe me about the Noah's Ark story being true or not. I think they're reserving judgment on it, which I think is great. The kids then went through a phase where they were saying, you don't believe in God, do you, Dad? I thought that this might be messing with their heads too much to be openly conflicting with what they're learning in school. So instead, I asked them what they meant by God. I asked, do they believe that God is love, kindness, the life energy that runs through all things? And they said that yes, this is what they thought of as God, or certainly not in conflict with their idea of God. So now we have this middle ground of understanding where we focus on what we agree on rather than what we don't. This debate has, I believe, increased the quality of our talks about these things, and I hope has led them to realize that it's okay to question everything, whether it's something I say or anyone else says. As well as saying their Catholic prayers, they do prostrations to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha and take refuge every night, which I'm so glad to see. So this is a real dilemma for parents sometimes when they're Buddhist, but either their children are going to a religious school from another religion, or the friends are a different religion, or the rest of the family is a different religion. Yeah, and it can be really difficult for when one or both parents are Buddhists, but the kids are also hearing other renditions of religion. And I think the way he's handling it is really good, because he's presenting another side of things. And, what it would be good to do to explain the kids, and soften their idea of either you're telling the truth or you're lying, is to say that different people have different ways of looking at things. Yeah, and to take something as an example, like, okay, if you look at this way, it appears quite big. If you look at it this way, there's just a sliver. Okay, this isn't a totally accurate analogy of what we're trying to convey to the kids, but what it does convey to them is that you can see things from different perspectives, and when you do, they look different. Yeah, and so that might help the kids get out of the notion of this black and white truth lying. Yeah. Okay? Because we, although we don't believe, let's say, the story about Noah's Ark and God and all this kind of stuff, we wouldn't say that those people are lying, would we, as adults, I mean, we realize, okay, they have another religion. We don't agree with it. We think what they're saying is incorrect. But saying something incorrect does not mean that people are lying. Yeah, because lying, I think, implies that they know that something is incorrect. Yeah, which is not the case with these people. They don't know it incorrect. They think what they're saying is completely true. So then it's better to explain to the kids, no, they're not lying, but they just have a different way of looking at things. So that way the kids don't have to say, oh, these people are really naughty, or, are my teachers bad, or is dad bad, or, what's going on here. No, they just have different ways of looking at things. Yeah, and so that's a really good thing for kids to start to see and understand early on. Yeah, although, it stretches their little minds to get beyond the black and white of truth and lying. Yeah, but what I really appreciate here is that he's discussing these things with his kids, and like asking questions and asking what they believe and presenting his side of the story. Because sometimes what I see Buddhist parents do is just avoid this altogether and not really instruct their children about what their own personal Buddhist beliefs are, or what Buddhist beliefs are in general. And I think then the kids really lose out on something. I had some friends who didn't want to do this. They're from my generation, so, they didn't want to cram religion down their kids' throats. So as a result, they didn't teach them anything. Yeah, even though the kids, they met all these Rinpoches, they saw all the, the inside of the temples and all of this kind of thing, but they never got much explanation about it, what it was all about. And I kind of feel sad for those kids because they never really learned the Dharma, and they had a chance to, when they were small. And teaching your kids the Dharma is different than cramming it down their throats. Okay? Whereas I had other friends who, from the very beginning, when her daughter was really little, her daughter would give presents to the Buddha every day, and the Buddha would give her a present every day. And the little girl, learned about making offerings, and then when she was older, she learned some of the Buddhist ideas and principles. And now she's quite definitely a Buddhist. I mean, she was at His Holiness Dalai Lama's teachings in Mongot last year, and she's now in her early 20s. And so that's really lovely to see. Yeah, and I think that parent did really did her child a favor teaching those things. So I think what Dermot is doing is very good, because he's sharing what he's thinking, and then also making the kids question. So you don't just accept the Buddhist thing or accept the Catholic thing, but you can think about it and decide what you believe. But then it's also important to teach what the two religions have in common about ethical conduct and kindness and compassion and these kinds of things, generosity and forgiveness, and to teach those kinds of things. And then as His Holiness Dalai Lama says, my religion is kindness, and all the rest of the stuff is just kind of what you do to convince yourself to be kind. Of course, His Holiness is saying that to the general public. Of course he believes that all the rest of that actually is quite important for getting yourself out of cyclic existence and being able to become a Buddha and being of the greatest benefit to sentient beings. But you can see how he addresses issues differently according to the audience, according to what's going to be most beneficial for a particular audience. Okay, so how do you avoid the trap of relativism? To me, saying that people look at things different ways is not saying that all those different views are true. Yeah, that's why I said that it wasn't an exact analogy, because here you're looking at one thing and it looks like this, or it looks like this. But when it comes to religion, I have no idea if they're looking at the same thing. In fact, I don't think that necessarily they are all looking at the same thing. I think everybody's looking for something beyond our own ego identity, but that what they find and how they identify it and the path to it, I think these can be very different. You know, each tradition has its own quote, quote, four truths, you know, what they say is the cause of suffering, you know, what is suffering, what's the cause, what's the path out of it, and what's the result. And okay, so everybody has their own version of that, but we can use reasoning to really examine which version is the most accurate. Yeah, and then we should try it out and see which version actually works. So saying there are different perspectives doesn't mean that they're all the same in terms of accuracy. Yeah, sometimes it is, because sometimes people want to say, oh, all religions are the same, because that's how in their minds they can come to the conclusion to respect all of them. Yeah, you have to have the reason that they all come to the same point. His Holiness has a very different viewpoint. You know, he says they all benefit the people who believe in them. However, you know, we should not say that they all say the same thing, and we should not blur the differences between them, because there are important differences. And so His Holiness Dalai Lama has done a lot of religious interfaith dialogue, especially, well, with all the religions, but there's some particular, I think they're Catholic, they may be Anglicans, and some priests among them who His Holiness has spoken with a lot. And during one of the dialogues, His Holiness very pointedly said to this priest, you know, we should not say that they're coming to the same point, because, you know, let's not ignore the differences. We can still get along even though we don't agree. Yeah, in other words, we don't have to say it all comes to the same point in order to respect each other. Yeah. And I think that is something very important, because otherwise our minds get very confused, thinking, yeah, we have to say everything's mush and the same, otherwise we're going to fight. Why can't we say, yeah, we have different beliefs, but determine to respect each other's different beliefs, because we realize that what each party believes is suitable for them at that particular time, and it benefits them. Yeah, so what Dad is doing here is encouraging the kids to think, which is exactly what the Buddha did in the Kalama Sutra. Yeah, encouraging people to check things out, not just believe it blindly. Yes, it is. Yeah, I know that was a key pivotal thing for me when I met the Dharma, is one of the things that teachers said at the beginning was, you don't have to believe everything we say, and that enabled me to listen to them. If it was, you know, these lamas presenting the truth with a capital T, I would have left. Yeah, because I was tired of that perspective. Okay.